Hello everyone and welcome to this live streaming session here from Axel Technology in Bologna. Today we have some viewers tuning in from European countries, the Americas, and some of you from Africa. I'm Marco Branzanti, CTO here in AxelTech. I have Gianluca Righi, which is our director today, and Stefano Grego, which is monitoring your Q&A, the Q&A. If you have any questions, you can use directly the YouTube chat using the bell icon on the upper right corner of your browser. So last week we had Enrico and Christian talking to us about the Falcon audio processor, the Falcon X7. The week before, I was introducing XTV, our automation system, and today we're going to talk about Uplay, our production player. So the first thing I want to focus on is what is the difference between an automation system and a production player. Well, an automation system is actually made to go on air 24/7. So, of course, you can make a playlist of your movies, ads, your promos, your jingles, and put them in a long playlist, which is usually based on date and time, so there's a lot of time management there. A production player is quite similar. In fact, several years ago, many TV stations would use automation systems like channel in a box system to actually use them during live shows. But the tool isn't really tuned, well tuned to do that job. So that's why we thought about 6 or 7 years ago to actually make a completely new product using the multimedia engine that we have in our automation system and putting it in a new tool which has more, let's say, its purpose, it's more for a live use. So faster, quicker, let's say easier to use, and a tool that you could manage in real time. And also, particularly, a tool which would give you multiple channel outputs. Why? Well, a production player, a production server, is actually used to play out, of course, maybe your news story to your video mixer while you're going live. But you can also play out something maybe to the video wall on the back of the anchorman or anchorwoman, and maybe you can use a channel just to do loops for a background CG graphics on top of your picture-in-picture effects and so forth. So it's actually, it uses the same engine as an automation system, but it is used in more a live assist mode. This is a term which is loved by the radio guys, okay, a live assist mode. So let's have a look at the product, which of course is running on my computer here. The computer now has an operating system. It's a Windows 10, can work also on Windows Server operating system, and hardware. I have a video card by Blackmagic now. It's a multi-channel video card, which of course allows me to run multiple channels of Uplay with SDI inputs and outputs. We support other type of cards, especially Aja, Bluefish, DeckTech, Magwell, DeltaCast, Streamlabs. Blackmagic is very popular because it's a not expensive board, and it's quite reliable, quite simple board that you can install. In this case, I'm using a Decklink Duo. In a 4-channel system, I would suggest to use Decklink Quad 2, which has 8 connectors, and it will give you inputs and outputs for all 4 channels. In fact, as you see, my GUI here of Uplay is actually organized so you can have 4 independent GUIs for the 4 channels on a HD monitor, a HD resolution monitor. So let's see what we can do. I'm going to concentrate now on my first channel. I'm going to stop and clear the playlist. I'm just going to pull up a file explorer and go on my server. I have a server with a bunch of video files, and well, doing a playlist is simple as doing a drag and drop. So drag and drop onto your playlist and then simply press the play button and the system will actually right away go on air. So something about file format compatibility. We are using an engine which is the same engine used by VLC. It's FFmpeg, and VLC is very popular and very well known for the fact that it plays out any file format. So we also can take advantage of that. So not only MPEG-1, MPEG-2, MPEG-4, AVIs, Windows Media Video, Matroska, and others, let's say more popular formats, but also the broadcast formats. So we have XD Cam by Sony, we in MXF files, we have P2 from Panasonic, we have DNX HD from Avid, and also ProRes, very interesting for the Apple lovers over there. ProRes can go on air as easy as any other file. So when you, let's say, configure your system, you're actually going to choose right away which is your Playout video format. And we support from SD, 4:3 and 60:9, HD, of course, 2K, 4K, and 8K. So we do not limit the resolution at all. Of course, the resolution depends a lot on what type of video board you are using. So in this case, since I'm using the Decklink Duo 2, it's going to be limited to HD P60, which is 3G. If you want to go up to 4K or 8K, you should use a card like the Blackmagic 8K Pro, and that card will actually deliver 4 outputs in 4K 12G. In this case, we don't give limitation on the file formats you can use also in this high resolution. But of course, it's going to be very heavy on the CPU. So we are testing i9 CPUs, which are becoming very popular, but it's still not quite enough to do 8K, for example, in ProRes. So what we tend to do is install a GTX card, an NVIDIA card, which is an inexpensive video card that you can buy off the shelf. And the NVIDIA actually gives us the possibility to use the GPU on top of the card to do all the hard work. The limitation is you must use file formats which use H.264 and H.265 video codecs. And in this case, you can do both encoding and decoding directly on the GPU, saving your CPU for other tasks. Well, the limitation is actually not so, let's say, bothering, just because in 4K and 8K, the H.264 and H.265 codecs are, of course, the best codecs that you can use for that purpose. Another nice thing is audio. We pay a lot of attention on audio in Uplay. Sometimes the video guys tend to concentrate too much on the video and less on the audio. Here you can actually choose how many channels of audio you want to manage, up to 16 audio channels. And so all of the ones you can embed actually into an SDI video signal. And the interesting thing is, if you choose less channels, like a stereo channel, and you want to play a file which has more channels embedded inside, the system will do an automatic down mixing of the audio channels to your output, so you're not losing anything. And actually, we have also an audio remap feature, which allows you to switch channels. We'll see that afterwards. Okay, something about upscaling and downscaling. So of course, you can drag and drop whatever file you want. Video codec is not an issue. Audio codec is not an issue. And the system will automatically adapt the resolution of the video you are using to the output, doing the automatic upscaling and downscaling. If the aspect ratio is not the same in the file as per the output, we will do aspect ratio correction. And I can actually demonstrate that. Let me put on my Storks, and to this video what I can do is I can actually in real time tell the system, hey, this is not a 16:9, it's a 4:3. So as you see, the system actually rescaled it, considering as a 4:3, which is not exact, but it's just for the demonstrating purpose. And it's inserting the letterbox on the left and on the right. If I tell the system to do a full screen preserving the letterbox, he's going to zoom in for the right amount just to take that letterbox out. And you're going to do this in real time, which is kind of nice. And also a very nice feature is you can zoom in and out of the image like this and exactly decide the amount of crop, the amount of letterbox that you want to give to the file. And this is quite interesting, not only for the videos, which allows you to do real-time correction on the fly, but Uplay is not only a video player, it's actually a multimedia player. So you can drag and drop your audio files, of course, but also drag and drop your bitmaps. And when you do this, sometimes the bitmaps will be in landscape or in portrait mode. So you can adjust with the crop function exactly how much you want to zoom into that image and spare the black bars on the side of the image. Oh, we have some questions. And I remind you that if you want to ask me something, just use the bell icon on the top right of your browser. Stefano will then read your questions and put it on the prompter for me. Can you do more than 4 channels out of one box if you have the appropriate amount of capture cards and the GPU is powerful enough? The question is very well made, very well done, and the answer is yes. We tend to say that a good system in HD is based on an i7 processor, for example, or if you want capture in XDCOM for the 4-channel, it's a 9.9 processor. But we have built systems with 8-channel outputs. It really depends on, first of all, the resolution, more pixels, more CPU. It depends on how much CPU power you have, and we do not limit this in any way. So we tend to take advantage of the normal evolution that you get over computers. There are now dual Xeon, which allow you, we support multi-core and multi-thread. So with a dual Xeon, with 48 threads running around, we will take advantage of that. So there's no real limit. The actual second limit would be the screen space that you have. So as you see, the GUI is optimized to have 4 channels onto an HD monitor. We have a reduced player mode, which is something like this, which we call the mini player mode. It allows you just to have the controls without the playlist on the right. So this allows you eventually to get more channels onto a single screen. Of course, for an 8-channel, you can go with a dual screen. In the past, we've done also 12-channel or 16-channel production server systems. How? Just putting more computer units, and then we use, if you want to use just one monitor just one keyboard and one mouse, with your multi-monitor display, let's say one for each unit, we use a nice software called the Synergy, which actually allows to share that keyboard and that mouse among multiple units as if it was a desktop extension. So you can also tweak the system around and try to get more channels out of your Uplay. Very well. So let's see what the operation is like. So I have a quick button here which is called reposition, and it kind of sorts my windows out in the standard configuration. So I have 3 typical ways of functioning, which is playlist, which goes from start to end. You start for the first clip, they will all follow, and the playlist will stop at the last clip. Or one at a time. One at a time means I'm going to play a clip, and the clip is going to stop, the system will cue automatically the next clip and wait for a user play button. This is kind of used during news, live news, where you get your stories and you're going to play your stories one at a time. And of course, I've got a loop function, which actually, something about loops. Loops are interesting because they are frame accurate. That means that if you're playing a single clip and the first frame kind of, let's say, ties to the last frame of the animation exactly, the loop will be very, very smooth. And I have a lot of TV stations which are using this as background generators or something, to put CG on top, or picture-in-picture, or DVE. Okay, if you want something more complicated, you can go as a playlist from start to end, and then on each clip you can actually define a custom action for each clip. So let's say I want to play 3 clips and then stop. On the 3rd clip I would choose stop at the end, and then I have another few features which are kind of interesting. Stop at last frame. So first frame and last frame management is something which is built in. Also in 1x1 I have actually a button, first frame on, last frame on, both frames, first and last on. And I'll explain why that is used. When you are feeding your video to your video mixer and you are mixing cameras with file playbacks from your production player, what you don't want to see is at the end of the clip going black and seeing that black frame just before you switch to the camera because you weren't on the button on time. So in order to avoid this, we use first frame, so we prepare the first frame of the clip, then the director can easily mix down with a transition or effect to the play server, and then you press the play button and you won't see those black frames. So we have that type of management built in, and it's very, very nice. And you can stop at the last frame, stop at the next first frame, so it will cue on the first frame of the next clip, or both first frame and last frame management, which is kind of nice. Actually, for the first frame management, I have actually a dedicated button, and I see it right here. So if I go first frame, there you have it. The system will be stuck on the first frame of the clip, and it's ready to play. You can easily mix down to the production player, press the play button, and you're on air. We'll get back to some of the features. What I want to insist on is that Uplay has been now developing since a long time, and we've been adding really many features, packing the software with features. And one of the most important things that Uplay has in respect with an automation system is the ability to integrate a lot with third-party equipment. In which sense? Well, the Uplay product is made to hook up to your video mixer. So we have a specific section in order to integrate better with your video mixer. Let's start from the very simplest one, which we call the GPI. So a very simple way to hook up your video mixer is to get your tally output from the mixer and then connect it to a GPI box to the Uplay. And as far as GPI, we support JL Cooper GPI, which is a box made by JL Cooper, and the Moxa. Moxa is a Asia-based company which produces electronic components, and they make several models of GPI. So what happens is, when I press the button for the video input of the Uplay 1, for example, the tally output will give the contact to the GPI, and the system can start automatically and press the play button for me. So that's kind of nice. Of course, it has some issues. Why? Well, there is a little latency between the GPI and the actual start of the player. It's not going to happen in less than a frame. It's going to take more than a frame, probably a couple of frames. So what people do is eventually they use the T-bar and kind of trigger the play with the T-bar, and then actually press the take button and do the effect. But of course, this is the less evolved type. It's something we would use several years ago. Now, we have protocols which we can use between the video mixer and the Uplay machine in order for the two systems to communicate between each other. The best protocol there is on the market is VDCP. And we support VDCP over RS422, VDCP over TCP/IP. Unluckily, VDCP is something you would find in high-end video mixers, okay, something expensive. We have integrated with some 4A, some Snellen-Wilcox video mixer, and it works kind of fine. It gives you also the possibility to see the list directly on the display of the mixer, select the clip, and just use the control panel of the video mixer to actually air and remote control everything. So this would be the standard protocol to actually achieve the most out of the production player and video mixer integration. But for the people who have an ATEM video switcher like we have, of course ATEM is becoming, from Blackmagic, is becoming a very popular video mixer simply because it's not expensive and it has quite interesting features. Well, what we have done is we have built into the Uplay what we call the HyperDeck emulator. What does this mean? Well, Blackmagic builds and manufactures a device which is a player recorder over SSD drives, and it has its own protocol for communicating. So we are doing that emulation right now. So what does it enable you to do? Well, if I open my GUI of the ATEM software control and I go in media players under HyperDeck, you see I have a Uplay 1 machine here, and I have Robinhood, which is on there, and if I want to see what else there is, and here I have actually the list of video clips which are on my playlist. So if I want to play Storks, I just press on the Stork button, and then if I want to press the play button, I'll show you like this, I just press the play button and the system actually enables the play. Not only directly in the configuration of the HyperDeck, what you can do is you can actually associate the Uplay output to the input of the video mixer. So whenever you put that input on air, he will automatically send the play command to the Uplay. And luckily, it does not send the stop command when you put your camera on air, which is something, for example, which TriCaster doing. TriCaster is a video mixer by NewTek, very popular, and it's very popular especially for that feature, okay? But there's a way of setting some settings inside the Uplay where you can enable that feature in another way. I will show you later. So one interesting thing is I have 4 channels in my Uplay server. Unluckily, on the ATEM configuration, what you do I'll go with the question in just a while. Let me finish here. What you can do is, of course, you have to put an IP address. I have only one IP address on my Uplay server machine, but you can trick the system. What you do is you actually can associate multiple IP addresses to the same card. And so here in the configuration, I would write IP 242, 243, 244, 245, and then in each single instance of Uplay, you actually can tell the Uplay to which IP channel, the Uplay channel to which IP address to reply. So it's like having individual units, and actually you can control up to 4 Uplay channels or as HyperDecks inside your ATEM machine, which is quite nice. Let's go with some questions, and then let's get back to that, to video mixer integration, because, well, that's the real scope of the Uplay. Uplay is something you will connect to your video mixer, you will use during your live production, and in order to put your media on air while you're going live. So, next question is, do you produce as-run logs? Well, of course, actually. As-run logs is something typical of the automation environment. Let's say that Uplay is kind of a hybrid product. So it kind of reunites, let's say, both worlds, the world of the live production player and the world of the automation. So I think I have it here in general, as run logs enabled. When you enable them, the system will create a comma-separated value. It's simply a simple text file which you can import into Excel and then print it out, sort it out, and manage your as-run logs. So as-run logs, yes, of course. Next question, can you lock playback and record channels together? So with the push of one button, you can either play multiple channels or record multiple channels at once. The answer is yes. We have it under remote. As you see, I have a list of Uplay instances. What I can tell is simply the IP address of the local instance, and I'm telling, please, remote control instance number 2. Okay? So what happens is that now play, stop, pause, start recording and stop recording commands will be actually passed to the other instance. And I can chain controls as much as I want, even among different machines. So now if I press the play button, of course, both players 1 and 2 will go and play with different media. And if I press the stop button, both will stop. Let me take this CG off. I spoiled that for you. I'll talk to you about the CG later afterwards. So what happens is I have a specific use, which I kind of talked about in the previous live stream session. I have a customer actually hooking up the 4 HD outputs of 4 channels to 4 monitors, which are aligned in the studio as if they were a video wall. And then what the customer did, he rendered out some panorama, some, landscape material, and he rendered, the original material was like 4K, and then he rendered the individual segments into individual files. He loads those files onto the 4 players, and using this feature, he actually plays them out simultaneously. And as you remember, I told you that the loops are perfect. So actually, the loop continued to go on in sync for many, many hours. And if by any chance somebody presses a pause button or does something strange on one instance, we added a button to resync and restart the playlist on all the 4 players. Just before the live show, what they do is they resync everything, and then it's like having a video wall, let's say, generator. There is another option, and I was asked in the previous session also, and it's an option we are developing at the moment. It's called Mosaic. The Mosaic will allow you to actually, from one instance, load a 4K video, an 8K video, or something strange like a video in 32:9, so strange aspect ratio, assign multiple SDI outputs to your monitor, and from one single instance of the player, you will be able actually to send a video perfectly synchronized because it's generated from the same file. So it's something similar to the previous approach, but let's say with a different implementation. I have a question. Will Uplay show embedded closed captioning? Yes, Uplay is compatible with CC, and we support 608 and 708 standard. So if your closed caption is embedded into MPEG-2, MP2, MP4, QuickTime, or TS transport stream files, actually the closed caption will be read. You have the possibility of seeing a preview on your screen. There's a special click option that you can enable, which is called CC on preview. So you get that closed caption on your preview, and it will be sent out on the SDI output as closed caption. Not only we support closed caption on the input, so this means that, I haven't told you yet, but the Uplay in the server version can actually capture, and we support closed caption capture and the vertical ancillary data capture. So you can capture your file, and then the closed caption will be embedded into the file. Also, MXF files supported. And when you play it out, you get that closed caption on the output directly. Okay, so let's start since we talked about it, I want to show you the other feature of the Uplay. Uplay, of course, is a player. So when we added the recorder function, which we have right here, so I have a loop now between channel 1 and channel 4, and I put channel 4 in recorder mode, we had to give a name. So we said, no, Uplay is a cute name. Let's add something. So Uplay server is the version that actually allows you to do bidirectional modes on each channel. Something like an old tape recorder. You can play, or you can switch to recording mode. So you get you can have play mode and recording mode for each channel. So the typical use, what's the typical use? Well, if I play my stories with channel 1, I'm going to, for example, as a background generator with channel 2, then I'm sending to my video wall my content with channel 3. With channel 4, I can actually capture my live show. So simply I select the format, and of course, also for the capture, we support almost every format. I'm going to just tell you some of them. So we have Apple ProRes for the Apple lovers, AVC Intra, DNX HD, which is AVID, a lot of flavors for DV, GXF, which is a the Grass Valley format. IMX is Sony, QuickTime with anything inside, MPEG-4, very popular, MPEG-1, MPEG-2, Windows Media Video, some XD Cam. So I'm going to go to MPEG-4 before I had a beta version and I had a runtime error. I would just want to show you that when I capture an MPEG-4, I can actually choose the video codec. Among the video codecs, I have some software video codec, which is kind of nice. The Cisco OpenH264 encoder, I like that because it's software-based. It's good quality, but it's light on the CPU. And then, since I have a GTX card in my system, I have NVIDIA NVENG technology. And that would be using the GPU to actually offload my CPU over it. So H.264 and H.265, which is kind of nice. So let's choose another format here. I'm going to use XDCAM, which is very, very popular among big TV station, and I'm going to record exactly. So now I'm capturing, you see it because it has a red screen, I have my counters which are already counting, and the interesting thing, what can I do? For example, I can use my second channel to actually view that file which I'm recording, and that's what we call our play while rec feature, okay? So what can I do? I can actually choose a segment of that play and while rec, okay? For example, like that. I can mark it, and once I've marked it, I can actually drag and drop it maybe to the channel which I have dedicated to my video wall and just play that capture, that content directly onto the video wall. So as you see, everything is drag and drop and very, very easy to use. So let me take that out. Take this out, and here we go. And I'm going to stop the recording. So now I can answer, since I talked a little bit about the record section, I can answer to a question which Stefano is proposing to me. Can you schedule records if you need to record network feeds? The answer is yes. Actually, Uplay is kind of a multi-purpose machine. You know, it's the Swiss knife of video servers. That's what we call it. So how do you do that? We have a special recording schedule section where you can actually create new recordings. You decide start time, which can be a single event, or it can be a recurring event, and you decide on Mondays, on Tuesday, etc. You decide a duration. If you want to split the files, maybe it's a long recording, like a 6-hour recording, and sometimes if you're doing an XD cam, will produce a very large file, which can be hard to manage, to copy around or transfer. So you can actually decide to split the recording into 1-hour segments, for example. And the interesting thing, there's a lot of naming syntax options. So you can decide to record to a folder, to give a name to the file, and to add to the file extra information regarding, for example, date and time. So the file will come out like my satellite recording, and then you will have the date and the time of the recording. So in the folder you will have a nice list of all the recordings that the system has done, and it has a very handy auto-delete feature, where you can tell the system, okay, keep only 7-day recording, and after a 7th day, delete the folder for me so you don't fill up the hard disk and then maybe cause some malfunctions to the system when the disk gets full. So that's kind of handy. And there's another really, really cool option. In the system, we support communication with external device. And we've already talked about VDCP, which is typically from a video mixer, but we can also send commands to the ATEM, or we talked about the HyperDeck emulation, but we can also send commands to the ATEM video switcher. And we have other protocols built in, which is actually TriCaster, so we can also use the TriCaster and send commands to the TriCaster to do automatic switching and this type of approach. But we also have a command section where we can send commands to Blackmagic video hubs, for example. This is another one, so if you have a routing switcher, or we have a generic protocol for any RS-232 or RS-422 controllable routing switcher. Why is that? Actually, this is here actually to record your network feeds unattended. So what happens is you can configure the system. For example, if you want to record from satellite 1, the system can actually send a command to the routing switcher in order to route that satellite to its input. And maybe after a couple of hours you want to record from satellite 2, you just put the commands and the system will actually do the switching right before capturing. So you can use a single a single instance of the recorder to perform multiple capture with different sources and automatic switching on the routing switcher. Okay, where can I capture? Can I capture to a network storage device as opposed to a hard disk? Very interesting. Yes, there's an interesting feature where you, well, from the main GUI, what you do is you select your main path for recording. And you can use a local hard disk, which is always a good choice because it guarantees the necessary bandwidth that you need. In Uplay, while we are recording, we have a buffer, and this is kind of a technical feature but very important. The buffer is actually, you can decide how big it is. For default, we default, I think, 100 frames of buffer, and you see it right there, which allows you to even have interruptions on the disks or on the network, and the system will actually, you will see the bar which moves the buffer, and you see the buffer growing and shrinking according to the bandwidth. In this case, I'm recording, and you see the blue bar, the buffer is full. So this allows you to be sure that your recording will be always nice and without any drops. The second option is you can record to the network, capture to your network, of course, and we allow this without any issue. Of course, the network needs a certain degree of performance in order to allow that, and this depends on the file format that you are using. Or you can actually do both. You can define in the system a backup folder, so the system will actually simultaneously, at the same time, write two files in the same exact file format, and you can keep that as a spare whenever you have issues on the network goes down, you still have your recording and the backup folder. Something else regarding the capture, you can capture up to 2 different file formats at a time. So you can have a high quality XDCAM format, for example, and maybe capture the same video content in a different file format. Usually it's an H.264 lower quality, and this is called proxy recording. Actually, you can do 2 high-end file formats. We don't limit that. Of course, you need CPU to do the second codec, so you need to manage well and balance out your CPU. Can you schedule playlist by exact time? This is a very interesting question. For many years, the answer was no. Why? Exact time scheduling is something that you actually have in automation systems, okay, which are based in date and time. And it was kind of a marketing, let's say, decision not to implement that type of feature into the software in order not to overlap our XTV automation with our Uplay production server. At the end, there's a lot of our customers that say, we love the GUI of Uplay. We would really like that feature built inside, so we built it. And it's a very, very simple implementation. So we tried to do a little differently, and we have it here. It's called Playout Schedule. What you can do is you can create playlists with your Uplay. You can save them on the disk, and then you can actually put your playlist into this playlist scheduler, and when you put the alarm clock on, simply the system will look at that playlist and actually load the playlist at exact times. And let's see if I can simulate this here. Here it is. I think I have it here. Stop. I have to take that out. Stop. I'm going to try. I don't remember how to do it. Let me see. First one. Oh, here it is. Right. So here you have your calendar. You can decide a specific date and time. You can actually decide when this playlist plays, if it's going to wait for the previous playlist to finish the current clip, and so you don't get interruptions with the clip. As soon as the clip finishes, the playlist will start, and this is our wait mode, or else we have a cut mode. At that exact time, the playlist would enter, cut whatever was on here, and actually go on there. If I have to say, there are many TV stations which are using the Uplay as an automation. They are going on air 24/7. Why? Just because it's very reliable as an automation system. The multimedia engine which is built inside is the same that we use in the automation system. Of course, the GUI is more for live production, but if your playout is simple or it has a lot of loops or something like that, of course, Uplay is an option. Will Uplay output an MPEG TS multicast UDP instead of SDI as an option? Until last week, the answer was no. That's kind of a strange question. Maybe they saw the new version, and now the answer is yes. Let's talk about inputs and outputs. So, of course, you can use it traditionally as a SDI input and a SDI output. But as far as outputs are concerned, you can actually activate a simultaneous NDI output, and I have it over here. So NDI by NewTek, video over IP format, high quality, low delay, low latency over LAN, over gigabit network, very nice, okay. And another simultaneous output which we have since last week is actually that IP output, and I have it over here. If I open the menu, we can see what type of formats we support. First of all, RTMP. RTMP is usually used to go onto internet. You go to Facebook Live, YouTube Live, or your website, you will probably use RTMP. But we also have UDP. UDP is used usually inside your LAN environment to go to other devices with pretty low delay. It's not as low as an NDI, but you can encode, and you can use any type of codec here. So we have MPEG-2, MPEG-4, H.264, H.265. You can use your GPU, of course, and most of the time it's used to enter your multiplexer. So if you have a multi-channel multiplexer and you're going DVB-T, ATSC, or something like that, you don't need to purchase encoders. The Uplay will actually do the encoding itself. And then we have a lot of other formats, SRT, which is a low latency protocol, open source, very nice, RTP, RTSP, IAS, which is Microsoft stuff. So you can actually decide what type of streaming you want to do. Let's talk about the inputs as well. Well, as far as the player is concerned, you can actually put on the playlist not only files, and this is kind of a feature that not many know, but you can actually put URLs. What are URLs? IP decoding. Can be an RTMP stream like the one I'm doing right now, which is an RTMP of one of our customers, which is has the streaming on the website. Then what can I do? I can do a lot of formats, HTTP, FTP, RTSP, RTP. How do you know which formats? Well, the engine that we are using here is actually the same engine which is used by VLC. So if VLC can read that stream, you can actually put it on the timeline. Another another object that I can put on the timeline is NDI directly. So if I have an NDI output, let me see, I have the second channel, so let me put a video here on the second channel and play it out for you, okay? So what I'm doing is, from the second channel, I'm playing out on NDI. Of course, I can use any machine on the network now, and when I play it, I will actually see that I have a loopback, and that loopback is not done with video cable, it's done with internally in the IP routing of the LAN. So as far as sources, inputs and outputs are concerned, on the playlist, I can actually have multiple different types of sources. There is another feature which I'd like to talk to you about as far as inputs and outputs are concerned in the recorder. So actually, also in the recorder section, of course I can capture from SDI, but I can also capture from NDI. So I can do NDI capture and also URL. So if I have an IP coming in, I can just type in that address and I can do capture from IP directly. Can I play the live URL and overlay CG on a schedule for CG? Oh, interesting. Okay. What are we talking about? Let me press the stop button here and clear, put some files, and first of all, let's talk about CG. I have enabled the CG layer on the first player. There is a checkbox option to enable or disable it. Why? CG requires some CPU overhead. So you're doing 4 channels, and if this option was available on all 4 channels, I would get a lot of CPU users. So I will only enable it actually on the channels on which I want to use the CG. The CG overhead is simply because CG has an additional layer on top with transparency. And this transparency actually is in ARGB 32-bit mode. That's kind of a heavy mode, which actually runs on the CPU. So that's why it needs more CPU. So when I press the play button, I can actually choose an ACG file. What is an ACG file? Well, together with the Uplay, we give you a free tool. Let me just pull it up and show it to you. Here it is. It's called the CG Composer. CG Composer works actually with most of our software. Automation, CG, logo generator, and you can use it. It's actually, let's say, the base for the CG that we use. It's a free tool. And what you can do is actually use it. Let me pull up some demo, which I have here on the desktop, okay. Let me pull up stocks, for example. And what you can do is you can use it to create CG templates. So this is something I created with the CG Composer, and as you see, it's really cool. It supports tickers, rolls, clocks, animations, of course, and for example, here I have a lot of tickers and crawls, which are actually getting their data. This is like a finance TV, and they're getting their data from XLS file, from Excel files. So you just import your data in the Excel file, and automatically it goes on there. Well, this ACG file, of course, I can use in my automation platform, but I can also use it directly onto my Uplay. So I simply press the CG, and the system will eventually, oh, there it is, okay, will put on here that stocks that we've seen. And the quality is fantastic. It's interlaced, it's very smooth, it's very nice, and that's an additional layer which is actually on top. Now, can I schedule CG? Well, I can play the live URL. Yes, you can play the live URL. I can overlay the CG. Yes, the overlay is done on the playlist. So you can have a playlist with URLs, NDI, live input from SDI also, we haven't seen that, and files, of course. Then how do I schedule CG? Well, we don't have a CG scheduler, but we do have a way of actually, let's say, defining secondary events. I will show this very fast in order to accomplish this task. We give you another tool, which is called the Xtrimmer. Xtrimmer is actually part of our automation suite. And what it allows you to do, it allows you to actually view any type of file, and it allows you, for example, to define mark in and mark out points, and these points will be respected by the Uplay. It allows you to divide the clip into segments. So it's what we call sub-clipping. This is not intrusive. The video file is actually untouched. It's only metadata, which is actually piggybacked onto the file. So you can sub-clip into various segments, okay? And for each of these, you can change parameters. For example, all those parameters that we've seen before, like the aspect ratio correction, the zoom in and the zoom out, actually also audio levels. And we have actually a loudness analysis inside, so the system can actually look at the audio which is inside the clip and do the analysis for loudness and propose to you loudness according to R128 or AT85, I think is the American format, and this is some of the feature. One of the feature is actually selecting some CG. So I can associate to a specific clip a CG template. Of course, the trimmer will show me the CG template, and when I play this clip inside the Uplay, it will play with its associated CG. So it's not a date and time schedule for CG, but it's more a secondary event connected to each clip, which is something similar and something you can work on maybe to achieve the specific task. What else can I tell you about this workflow? Well, the idea was, if I want to put a story on here and I want to put some CG titling, like the name of the journalist, the name of the story, the name of the cameraman, what I can do is create those templates, then I can add dynamic data specifying the name of the cameraman and so forth, and then when I play it out with the Uplay, I'll get that automatic CG output as secondary events, and it's almost like having a newsroom, but let's say much simpler and hassle-free. Let's put it like that, okay? So that's the real goal and why we did this type of integration. So next thing I want to show you is that whenever you have trimmer data embedded, you get this icon on top. And if I go with my mouse over that, the system will actually tell me what is the metadata that has been modified from the original clip. And here I see I have a specific mark in and mark out points. If I add CG, it will tell me the CG information. I can, eventually, if I'm not interested in that metadata, I just click on it and it becomes gray. This means I'm not looking at inserted metadata. I'm playing the file as it was in the beginning, as if no one opened it with the trimmer. So the trimmer allows you to get a managed workflow with your Uplay production server without having database, without having a central, let's say, management system. Very good. Let's go on. When you are trimming a file on the computer screen, can you hear the audio from a particular video you are trimming with? Well, the answer is yes, depending on where. If you're talking about Uplay, we have a specific button which is called Audio Preview. So, of course, you have 4 channels, and you're not going to listen to all the audio simultaneously, but it's a cool feature. Why? If you have a KVN system, and you have your machine in your technical room, and you have like headphones or small loudspeakers in the computer screen, this is a handy feature so you can listen the audio ahead of time. If you're using the trimmer will actually default all the time to your default sound device on the computer. So yes, that will go with audio on the Sound Blaster, to put it, let's say, in rough terms. Okay, so yes, you can listen to anything you trim. 2 or 3 things about the audio, very cool. So if I click on the view meters, I can actually disable some channels. So if you see, I'm going to put only channel 1, and here I have it. So sometimes when you're in production, you have especially in XD-COM files, you have your 8 tracks inside. You just want to select which tracks to send on the output. You can do that very fast. But then there's even something even better, which is called audio remapping. So this is something new that we've done. I'm going to default that, and what I'm going to do is take out channel 1 to channel 1 and take out these channels and just put channel 1 both on channel 3 and channel 1 both on channel 4. And as you see, it's interactive. So on the view meter, I'm seeing that I've shifted my 2 channels from 1 and 2 to 3 and 4, and this is a really, really cool option. Something more about audio. When we're doing video products, everybody tends to concentrate on the video, but audio is a very crucial part of production. So you're getting your video and SDI or NDI to your video production mixer. What about the audio? Well, most of the time you will have an audio console while you're doing live. So what you need to do to get the audio out usually is use some boxes to de-embed the audio, and that's kind of an extra cost. So if you have a console which supports audio over IP, like for example a Yamaha console with your Dante interface or something like that, you can use Ravenna, you can use AX67, whatever you want. You install the driver onto the Uplay machine, and in the Playout section you get something which is called extra audio output. What does this mean? You're playing your audio to your NDI, to your SDI, but also to a dedicated audio device, which can be your Dante driver. So this allows you to save money. You don't need any de-embedders. Simply, you will get the audio out of your Uplay players directly to the audio console. And just for reference, we also support this in the input part, which is usually used to get multi-channel audio recordings. So if you have a special production workflow in which you want to keep all your channels which you have on your multi-track audio production console separated, you can bring out audio over IP or over Dante with your 16 channels directly into the Uplay machine and keep those 16 tracks separated, probably for post-production purposes. Of course, Uplay can be used also for multicam recording. You hook up 4 recorders, you put on your cameras, you hook up your remote connection between the instances, so you press record on one and all the rest will start recording. And of course, time code. Where do we get our time code? You have 3 options for capture. The first option is, of course, use the computer time, and that will be embedded. You can use SDI input, so you get your vertical RP188 time code on the input, or you can use LTC. LTC, how is that done? Very interesting. If you hook up an audio card or use the audio card onto on the motherboard, you hook up your LTC, longitudinal time code, directly to the audio card, and we'll treat that as a time code, and we'll embed that into the files. So I think our time is up. Wow, that was very fast. I would have another million things to do and to tell you on the Uplay. There's many, many more options. Please do visit our website and have a look at the Uplay. You can download actually a demo version, and I'm just going to talk to you about the versions which are available from Axel Technology. Actually, there's a free version on the network. It's limited. You get some advertisement on top. You have to wait 30 seconds to use it, but it is usable. It will play out a playlist. It won't have mark in, mark out, no integration with video mixers, but it is a multi-format player. I have a lot of TV stations which use that just to go onto a video wall, to have a loop there or something like that, and it's actually the demo version. So if you download, you'll get the first instance, which is a free to use, and the other 3 channels are actually what we call Uplay Broadcast Demo, and it will allow you to see and use and try out all the features on the VGA output only. It won't output to SDI, NDI, or IP. Then, of course, we have Uplay Pro, which is the same version as free without the nags, so registered version. Uplay Broadcast is the player output only, doesn't capture, only play with all the features of the player that we've seen. And then we have our turnkey unit. So until now, it's software only. You want the software, you buy your own computer, buy your deck link, just install the software, and you're ready to go on air. If you want a turnkey unit, we have 1-rack unit machines or 4-rack unit machines, according to the power needed and to the number of channels. The biggest model that we make is called Uplay Server. The Uplay Server is the one that not only gives you player mode features, but also gives you capture. So you get that bidirectional, VTR-like play and capture modes. Very well. So, thank you so much for tuning in and assisting to this live session. If you need any more information at all, please write to us. Write to us at info@axeltechnology.com. I'm Marco here in AxelTech, and thank you very much for watching.